Hi there and welcome to the Richie Allen Television Show in association with davidicke.com and with Beyond Vision Media. Hope you're well. It's good to be back with you. This is Season 2, Episode 2, and it is Friday. Today is Friday. It's the 11th of September 2015. So primarily today I'm going to be talking about September the 11th, 2001. But just to let you know that we are alive, that we are well, and that we are watching what's going on in the world. And we could have talked today about the US State Department claiming that ISIS is manufacturing chemical weapons in Syria. They're not, by the way. They're not at all. It's nonsense. They're not offering any proof of it. I could have talked about Benjamin Netanyahu and his visit here to the United Kingdom to see David Cameron, but we're not going to get into that. There's a lot of protests against that, which is a good thing. But as I said, we're going to primarily focus on September 11th and one or two other stories as well. Do you remember where you were on September 11th, 2001? I do. I'll tell you about that in a second. I think it's our JFK moment. It's our generation's JFK moment anyway. That anybody who was over 10 or 11 years old on that day can pretty much remember where they were and what they were doing on that day. And we know what we did. We sat glued to the television probably for 72 hours or for even 4 days after it. So we did. In fact, I suppose it will be the event that defines our generation. I'll never forget where I was. I was working for Waterford local radio in Ireland. It's a big commercial station in Ireland, very successful. I was a senior talk producer there. We'd left that Tuesday morning having broadcast our programme. We'd left, we'd come back to prepare the next day's show, and we were taken into the newsroom to join everybody else around the world in watching the events unfold on live television. Well, let's just have a look at what was going out on television that day. I think we've got a variety of footage, mostly though from CNN. Have a look.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
The plane was coming in. I noticed it a second before it hit the building. It looked like it was moving slowly, and it lined itself up to hit the building directly.
The doorman goes to me, wow, I never seen a plane flying so low. And we looked out at it, all of a sudden, boom, it seemed like it wasn't even real.
I'd say the whole takes about, looks about 6, 7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Listen, hold on just a moment. We got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
I'll tell you what's going on.
Horrifying pictures even today. Well, they are for me anyway. I can't imagine what it must have been like for people inside the buildings. I certainly can't imagine what it must have been like for people on the streets as the buildings were actually coming down. They must have thought it was Armageddon. I'm sure they did. I broadcast on the day. We took the afternoon schedule off the primetime presenters and we began broadcasting, myself and my presenter, and talking to people in New York and people in Dublin and Americans in Dublin, and politicians, anybody we could speak to about it. I was saying to Hayden and Marty earlier on, we'll eventually do a show about how news is reported. What we do in news, we get, we use sources like Reuters, like AFP, like AP. We grab stuff coming down from the wires. Literally, it comes out of a machine, you rip it, you take it on air and you read it and you don't question it. Very serious. Where are you going with that one, Richie? I'm going with the fact that we broadcast information in the following days telling the world that Osama bin Laden and his band of merry men in Afghanistan were responsible for it. We didn't question it. We didn't question it at all, but I'll come back to that in a second. I find myself today talking to you thinking that here I am now. For the last few years I've been making independent alternative news programmes questioning 9/11 and many other historic events, the veracity of what we were told about those events and everything. And I find myself thinking that, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, today we can get away with it because it is September 11, 2015, and we're expected to look back on that day. But I feel we should never stop talking about it until the people who were responsible for it are eventually brought to justice. But back to myself, when did I start to think that there was something seriously wrong with the explanation we were given to September the 11th? Well, I'd love to say I fought the good fight, and that in the mainstream media, as a producer, that I was asking questions. I wasn't. I was a repeater. I was a parrot. Like I said, big news agencies gave us copy like that to read, and we read it. And we blamed bin Laden and the, 19 hijackers, 17 of which came from Saudi Arabia, and their Stanley knives, which in America you call box cutters. We said it, and I think we believed it ourselves. At least I did at the time. About 2 years after that, maybe a little bit less, somebody handed me a book written by David Icke, a book called Alice in Wonderland and the World Trade Center Disaster. Thanks, Hayden. There it is on screen. Now, what did I know about David then? Well, I knew that he'd worked in sports and in breakfast television for the BBC. I knew he was very highly thought of, and I knew he'd had a kind of a fall from grace of sorts, because he'd become a conspiracy theorist, and he went on BBC television with Terry Wogan, and it wasn't too good, and he didn't come out well after it. That's pretty much what I knew about David. What we were told to think about him, he's a bit mad. Didn't read the book straight away. I'm an avid reader, and I'm somebody who needs to read about 10, 15 pages of a book each night before I eventually fall asleep. They say it's not good for you. I can't go to sleep any other way. I eventually got caught one night without a book to read. There was no Kindle. There was no, probably shouldn't mention Kindle. There was no readers, e-readers in general. So I opened up the pages of Alice in Wonderland and the World Trade Center Disaster. What did it mean to me? I quickly started to feel a profound sense of shame while reading the book, because David was mentioning things in there that he wasn't mentioning things as such, he was asking questions within the book that we as broadcasters and journalists should have been asking on the day. Not only on the day, but in the subsequent days, but we weren't. I was horrified to learn that things were going on that day in front of my eyes that we weren't really paying any attention to, because we were sticking with the crazy guys in a cave in Afghanistan. So rather than get into a big argument about how the buildings came down, and there are multiple theories, energy weapons, some people have even said mini nukes, which I'm not sure I buy. There's all manner of theories out there. I'm going to just talk about the things that you can bring to skeptics. When I say skeptics, people who believe the official story, things that you can bring to them to maybe give them a moment of pause, to maybe make them think again. So I want to talk about news clips, or one news clip which was never seen again after 9/11. It was seen on YouTube and on liveleak.com and everywhere else, but the news networks have never shown it again. I want you to have a look at these firefighters who were filmed looking a little bit worse for wear, talking about their experiences of coming out of the buildings before the collapses and what had happened beforehand. Look at this.
What happened? It was an explosion. We was in the lobby and the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible.
It's like hell. You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Was that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the planet, probably.
Yeah, definitely secondary explosion. Because we was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on the way upstairs, the whole fucking plane blew, and we just collapsed on everybody inside the lobby.
Similar to the first tower coming down, secondary.
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second one was terrible. Then there was a third one too after that one.
Third explosion after that.
That's right. Everybody was inside the building, waiting to go upstairs, and they just let loose. Everything just let loose inside the building.
So what you told me is that there was the plane or whatever hit the building, then a secondary explosion.
It was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. Then they exploded. The whole lobby collapsed on the lobby inside.
So the firefighters were saying there was bombs going off everywhere. You know, certain stories, certain floors. They also said bombs are going off in the subterranean levels. They also talked about the lobby. And this never made it to the 9/11 Commission report. Have a look at this clip of the lobby. Look at the state of the lobby here.
Pfeiffer was the first chief into the building. Right away, a guy from the Port Authority told him the damage was somewhere above the 78th floor. But all you had to do was look around. It was obvious. Something had happened right there in the lobby.
You just saw that all the windows were blown out. The lobby looked like the plane hit the lobby.
Later, they'd figure out that flaming jet fuel had shot straight down the elevator shaft.
All of this damage was done already. People was all over the place. So you knew it was going to be worse when we got upstairs.
Flames are shooting out. Smoke is pouring out.
That was taken from a documentary made by the No Day brothers. And it was about the firefighters. You saw the state of the lobby there. Nobody can make a credible argument that a plane hitting the building 80, 90, 100, 110 stories up could cause that damage in the lobby. And nobody's suggesting that it did. But what is interesting is that's omitted from the 9/11 Commission report. Also, William Rodriguez, the janitor, right, he spent 45 minutes speaking to the 9/11 Commission report lawyers. He did an interview on the record. There's no mention of him in the Commission report, a document which I've had to read in its entirety on 2 different occasions. That's just inexplicable, really. The mainstream media, well, in the initial 2-3 years after 9/11, they would bring out some alleged conspiracy theorists from time to time to challenge their conspiracy theories. But really, they've given it a wide berth because of the anomalies in the report. Recently, though, RT did a piece where they questioned the laws of physics and how the 9/11 Commission report seemed to contradict the laws of physics. This is RT.
Huge billboards on Times Square and across the states confront the fact most Americans don't know a third giant tower on 9/11 wasn't even hit by a plane, yet somehow collapsed in free fall. At 5:20 p.m, World Trade 7 suddenly, neatly and symmetrically just folded like a pancake.
This is high school physics.
A building cannot do free fall with 40,000 tons of structural steel in its structural system without it being blown up.
The government version is that office fires made all 84 steel columns break at the same time. But there are other versions. John Cole's among thousands of leading independent experts with architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. Great to speak to you. So who did it?
Who didn't do it is the 19 hijackers that allegedly flew the plane. It is impossible. It is impossible to melt that steel by the office fires, the jet fuel, or the collapse itself. It's a physical impossibility. It cannot be replicated experimentally. It defies the laws of physics.
I've gotten to know Richard Gage very well over the years. He's the guy who founded Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. Richard is one of the founding members of the Architects Association for America. It's nearly 2,500 now architects and engineers who question the official version of what happened on September the 11th. Now again, most people don't know this because it isn't widely reported in the mainstream media. Are there architects who say, yeah, they could have come down those buildings because of the planes? Yes, there are. Yes, there are. Not saying there aren't. But there are not 2,500 of them who've signed up to a group to say, look, not in our name, this couldn't possibly have happened. Educate people about this. This is why I'm dedicating this much of this episode to this. These are the things you can tell people which are beyond dispute, irrefutable facts. Did you know, for example, that a small amount of people, a lot of people, I don't know, but somebody made an enormous amount of money using insider trading, using advanced knowledge of the attacks to make bets called put options. And a put option is when you take an option on a stock losing value. You're making a financial bet that a stock is going to fall. And bets were made that not only American Airlines stock, but United Airlines stock and other companies associated with the World Trade Center towers, other stocks would fall. The only time this has ever been mentioned by the news media in the US was way back when, by ABC. Take a look at this.
This could very well be insider trading at the worst, most horrific, most evil use you've ever seen in your entire life.
One example, United Airlines. The Thursday before the attack, more than 2,000 contracts betting that the stock would go down were purchased. 90 times more in one day than in 3 weeks. When the markets reopened, United's stock dropped. The price of the contracts soared, and someone may have made a lot of money fast.
$180,000 turns into $2.4 million when that plane hits the World Trade Center.
It's almost the same story with American Airlines.
That's a five-fold increase in the value of what was a $337,000 trade on Monday.
All of a sudden becomes what?
$1.8 million.
And there's much more, including an extraordinarily high number of bets against Morgan Stanley and Marsh & McLennan, two of the World Trade Center's biggest tenants.
Could this be a coincidence? This would be one of the most extraordinary coincidences in the history of mankind if it was a coincidence.
It is absolutely unprecedented to see cases of insider trading covering the entire world, from Japan to the United States.
Now, apologies for the quality of one or two of those clips. They're not available in HD. They were filmed some years ago, obviously. Look, initially, they put the line out there that the insider trading must have been from Al-Qaeda-based operatives around the world, in Germany, in Jordan and elsewhere, and all of that sort of nonsense. But they couldn't prove any of that. So they basically then said, the 9/11 Commission report said, exhaustive investigations by the Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC, and the FBI, importantly, and other agencies have uncovered no evidence that anyone with advanced knowledge of the attacks profited through security transactions. That's a lie. Now, retired FBI agents have gone on the record, and this is true. Google it, Yahoo it, use another search engine, you'll find it. And by the way, Rolling Stone magazine did an article on this years ago, which isn't available online. Pretty much everything else Rolling Stone ever did is. And somebody must have, or some people do have, the actual magazine itself. But they ran an investigation themselves into it, Rolling Stone magazine. They spoke to former FBI agents, and those agents were actually working in financial fraud. And they said that they were investigating this, and they were following a money trail, but it started to go up a certain ladder in a certain area, and they were told to stop. I'm not making that up. We don't do this on this program here. So what happened? It's incredible. It's been airbrushed out of history, this. Airbrushed. And in case you didn't know this, CBS 60 Minutes, again, this program has disappeared out of existence without trace. 60 Minutes on CBS, very big program, very important program. On September the 17th, 2002, they revealed that associates close to George W. Bush, then President of the United States, had suddenly and inexplicably sold all their airline stock days before the terrorist attacks. That was reported once. It was never again reported by the mainstream media. This is true. Remember that. Tell your friends who think you're crazy. 60 Minutes said Bush's pals selling their airline stock the days before. What's going on? Anybody remember Thomas Keane? Remember him? Thomas Keane's a former New Jersey governor. He was given the job of finding out what happened. Probably the most important job in the world, in the US at that time, anyway. He was given $3 million by the Bush administration to investigate the attacks. I'm going to say that again. $3 million. $3 million. They spent $50 million investigating William Jefferson Clinton. Remember him? Do you remember why they were investigating Clinton? Hayden, roll the clip.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time.
Everybody and their sister and their aunt and maybe even their uncles gave Clinton a blowjob while he was in the White House. I would say there isn't anybody who worked there that didn't have some sort of sexual relationship with Billy. Was it worth $50 million, though, to investigate whether... I couldn't give a damn. We spoke about this before the programme. As long as the guy's honest, I couldn't care less about whether he had oral sex with an intern or not. $50 million for Clinton, $3 million for the worst terrorist atrocity on American soil ever. You figure it out. They've got their priorities straight, eh? Keane went on, Thomas Keane. Remember, this was the guy responsible for the report. It doesn't get any more important than this. He went on to write a book which he co-authored with Lee Hamilton, a book called Without Precedent, The Story of the 9/11 Commission. That book was published in 2006. What about it, Richie? In the book, he wrote that the 9/11 Commission was so frustrated with repeated misstatements by the Pentagon and by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, that they considered launching an investigation into possible deception by those government bodies concerning their responses to the attacks. This is Keane talking to the National Press Club.
Lee and I write in our book that we think the commission in many ways was set up to fail because we had not enough money, we didn't have enough time, we had been appointed by the most partisan people in Washington, the leaders of the House and Senate.
19 box cutters. 19 box cutters? That'd be nice. It'd be nice to have 19 box cutters, wouldn't it? 19 terrorists using box cutters did not hijack 4 planes on September 11, 2001 and smashed them into targets, 3 of which allegedly reached their targets, 1 which didn't, which went down in Shanksville in Pennsylvania. It didn't happen. That much I know. Why? Because Thomas Keane said so. Because he said the 9/11 Commission was set up to fail, and he said that they considered suing the governmental departments for lying through their effing teeth. 14 years on, we're as certain as ever of what? Well, I don't know how the buildings came down. I wish I did. Couldn't tell you that. I don't know why Building 7 collapsed into its own footprint at 5:20 that day, hours after the other towers came down. Building 7 wasn't hit. No idea. I do know that most people don't know that. I know Marty and Hayden do. I know people within the independent media do. But most of our friends and neighbours have no idea that a 3rd building collapsed. Go to Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth to read more about that. Osama bin Laden in the Batcave didn't do it. I believe that Western intelligence agencies carried it out to further an agenda. See the Project for a New American Century think tank and a document they published in 1999. We don't know what happened, we don't know how it happened, but we know what has happened since. And everything that's playing out now in Syria and in Libya and in Iran is a direct consequence of the fact that people charged with the job of protecting you and I and keeping us safe murdered many of us on September 11th, 2001. And here we are 14 years afterwards, and the people who are really responsible for it are still at large. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, plenty more. Don't go anywhere.
Attention small business owner, when is a box more than just a box? No! No! Oh no, that's just weird. A box is more than just a box when it can give you a couple of extra hours in bed, or at the very least some time to do something more fun and or productive than bookkeeping. Just bang all your paperwork in a box and we'll take care of the rest. Accounts Direct. Accountants on your side.
Welcome back. Listen, before we go any further, check out liveleak.com. I've said it a million times. I said it long before I met Hayden Hewitt, long before I met him. It's the most important website in the world. It really is. People put videos on there that the mainstream media would never show, from war zones. There's a lot on there about the refugee crisis, a lot on there about Libya, Syria. Get on there. Every Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. BST, that's British summertime, it'll change soon enough. Evil Marty, Dirty J, Wingman John and Hayden Hewitt put on the Live Leak show. It's fantastic, so watch it, it really is. Also check out unreportedtruth.com, a new platform for citizen journalists, and of course my great mate and a big supporter of this programme, David Icke. Go to davidicke.com/headlines, because there you'll get real analysis of the news events that we talk about on this programme, and much more besides as well. Great stuff. Right. God save our scrounging queen. Long live our freeloading queen. Oh, shut up now. This week, so the... It's hard not to get annoyed when you do this sort of stuff. This week, so the mainstream media waxed lyrical about the world's most successful benefit scrounger, who celebrated 63 years of sitting on her fat, lazy arse doing sweet FA while being paid millions to do it, only stopping to swan off around the world on luxury cruises. Elizabeth Windsor, there she is, was said to be thrilled at having gotten away with it for so long. And she said she hoped her lazy bastard son and his horse-faced wife would take up the baton in the future. Because if you don't laugh, you'll go mad, you know. What did Reuters say this week? They said, not this week, they said a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that she has a net worth even of £22.8 billion, based on the key investment vehicles, the royal estates, of course, and their trove of treasures. £22.8 billion. She's probably pissed off, is the Queen, that while they don't get a spot in the top 10 in the world, Bill Gates still heads that up, but they fit comfortably into the top 20 most wealthy people globally. They're compared to Bloomberg, the media giant, of course, and the former mayor of New York, and Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook. What a shower of lazy, work-shy scroungers. And she's putting her family... I mean, look at this guy. Look at this guy, her husband. Have a look at her husband here. Hayden Hewitt takes responsibility for that. God is in his lazy temple. This is her husband, of course, Prince Philip, who, when he's not doing pony trap racing and going to horse fairs and Appleby and places like that, he's appearing in horror films from the 1980s. Lazy, work-shy, evil Nazi bastards. That's what we're dealing with here. Why am I getting so annoyed by it? Because in the week that we learn that she's become the longest-serving monarch in British history, Ian Duncan Smith, the Work and Pension Secretary, has been calling people with disabilities subnormal or abnormal. Did he say that outright, Richie? Well, he didn't, let's be honest about it. But he said, in summing up a report on benefits of some kind or another, he referred to able-bodied people as normal. So the supposition is that people who are not able-bodied are somehow abnormal. It's unbelievable that we spend massive amounts of money keeping these people who have a net worth of £22 billion while we destroy the lives of the worst off in this country. And you know what? The world is mad, right? I said this to Hayden earlier on. Despite being the heir to £22 billion of net worth, the jug-eared, fucktard Muppet son of hers, her god-awful firstborn, this guy has been begging for money, lobbying ministers, including the former First Minister of Scotland, to give them some cash to renovate stately homes and to promote his fucking food brand. Come on. Come on. They're having the piss, right? They're taking the piss even. There's very little support for these freeloaders in Britain, in my opinion. When they turn up anywhere, you see a crowd with the flags, the idiots. These are rent-a-crowd people, in my opinion. Because I can't find anybody. Hayden, can you find anybody who's interested in these people? Admittedly, we're not of that generation, but nobody's interested in these people.
My mother-in-law, maybe.
Well, there you go.
She's in the late 70s.
Yeah, and I have an old uncle living in somewhere in London who will turn out and say, oh, they do a lot for us. They do a lot for us. You will get those people, right? But by and large, people couldn't give a shit about them, which is a tragedy in its own way. Look, I say, send the sheriffs into Buckingham Palace. Kick those fucking freeloaders out on their lazy arses. Give them a one-way plane ticket to Germany and be done with them once and for all. It's as simple as that. Look, I'm an Irish guy. I'll take the slings and arrows. It's none of your business. You're a migrant here. Yeah, I am. But I've no time for them. This makes us mad. Now, I understand Hayden Hewitt's been talking a lot about this on the Live League show. I know he is because I watch it. Have a look at this front page of the Sun newspaper from last Sunday, the Sun on Sunday. They allege, do the Sun, that 52% of their readers say bomb Syria now, but do it for little Aylan Kurdi. The young boy, of course, washed up on a Turkish beach along with his brother and mother, who tragically died trying to escape the madness of Syria. Bomb Syria now for Aylan, says the despicable Sun. You've been all over this.
Oh, it's just unreal, isn't it? The rampant hypocrisy. Before that, they were backing up David Cameron with the swarms and the hordes, ignoring the fact that amongst economic migrants, we do have refugees. It's terrible. Oh, we got a dead baby.
Yeah.
Oh, we can use this. And now it's come out that the unfortunate child was the son of someone who was going to be an economic migrant. It's too late to turn back now.
Yeah. It's dreadful. The Sun is the worst excuse for a newspaper, we put news in inverted commas there's ever been. It's a despicable rag, owned by News Corp and Rupert Murdoch, of course. Rebecca Brooks is back there, isn't she? That's another thing. We could have gotten into that, but we won't get into that today. So the Sun says bomb Syria for him. It's cynical, it's tasteless, it's the Sun, it's the worst excuse for journalism in the world. But again, they have previous, haven't they, of doing this sort of thing. Take a look at this from 1989. What is that, Richie? Back in 1989, Liverpool played Nottingham Forest at Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield in the FA Cup semi-final. The FA Cup's a bit like the Super Bowl, I suppose. It's a massive tournament. Every football team in England can enter it, all the amateur teams as well. And at the end of it, we go to Wembley Stadium in May. Everybody watches it. It's great. I know it's bread and circuses, I know that. But it's traditional. We like to do it. You've got to switch off sometime from the madness. During this day when Liverpool played Nottingham Forest, the people, the stewards at the stadium, the people in charge of the stadium and the police made a monumental fuck-up. And their monumental fuck-up resulted in the deaths of 96 Liverpool fans. They were unlawfully killed, I suppose, because they weren't killed in a premeditated way. People fucked up and people died, so it's unlawful. What did the Sun do in the days after those Liverpool fans died? Well, with little thought or sympathy whatsoever for the grieving families back home in Liverpool, they ran this bollocks. They ran a story saying that Liverpool fans were pickpocketing the dead, that they were pissing. Where am I getting pissing from? They did say that they were pissing, didn't they? They were doing all sorts of stupid things. And
there were a lot of allegations. Of course, we were only young at the time.
Yeah.
But over the years, I mean, if you go on any Liverpool football forum, the sense of grief and injustice is still very out. You'll find all your information there.
It's brilliant. They said that they were pissing on the cops. They said that they were beating up one of the PCs, that's police constable, by the way, who was giving the kiss of life to a fan. They weren't. This is outrageous bullshit, even by the Sun's or any other tabloid newspaper standard. This was all about a cover-up that began on the very afternoon while people were dying. Yorkshire Police, South Yorkshire Police, and the people running the stadium started to cover up their mistakes that led to the deaths of these people. Look at Kelvin McKenzie there. What a scumbag. They have never offered a penny of compensation to the people who died at Hillsborough, to the families for saying those hateful, hurtful, devastating things. We know now, of course, there's been an inquiry. We know now that it's untrue. We knew anyway. We knew back then. I'm a Man United fan. Hayden's a Man City fan. It's not about football. It's about justice and about what newspapers can do to people. Despicable. So when you see what they do today, come in.
Yeah, just
don't wait to be called. Come in. Just come in.
Just checking there. They did actually issue an apology. That underneath that it was the police that smeared the fans. We are profoundly sorry. Not regular sorry. Profoundly sorry. To this day, I believe they only sell about 5 copies of that rag in Merseyside.
In parts of Manchester, around where City, particularly where City used to be, out there. You can't find it in Rusholme and places like that. People don't want to buy it. You're absolutely right. It's despicable. And then you can't be surprised then when you see that Élan Kurdi nonsense as well last week. Bomb 'em, because that's what dead babies want. Yeah, it might look a bit crass, that, but they're gearing up for war. They're ramping up for war. Look at this nonsense from Sky News. They're looking to make Top Gun 2. Look at this.
The siren goes off and we need to be out of those aircraft as soon as possible.
I am the weapons platform.
If you do not respond immediately to my orders, you will be shot down.
So they want war. They want to bomb the poor, miserable, misfortunate people who are stuck in Syria even further. Not content with creating the Islamic State and setting them to go to war to commit atrocities, which has in turn provoked Bashar al-Assad to deploy his army, who of course are committing atrocious acts as well. That's not good enough. Let's drop more bombs on Syria. See how glamorous Sky News made that look. The good looking pilots, the amazing planes, the technology. It's wonderful. It's almost like Top Gun. Well, I have the need for speed. This is amazing. The only place in the world, of course, you'll see the result of those bombs is on liveleak.com, because Sky won't show you that. No. Nor will the BBC. You won't see mangled dead bodies. Go to the Richie Allen Radio Show archive on YouTube. Listen to my interview last week with Brandon Bryant. Brandon Bryant flew drones for 5 years just outside Las Vegas. He described in detail on the radio programme, when all the smoke clears Hayden after the drones, he described in detail the bits of bodies, the bits of children, the bits of sheep farmers, which we see on LiveLeak.
But it is noticeable that although Apache cameras and things like that, and some F-16 cameras can pick up remarkable detail, drone cameras will not allow them to see exacting detail.
No, that's right.
Because they don't want those basically gamers that they've hired to actually associate what they're doing with destroying real people's lives.
That's it. It's disgusting. They want to destroy Syria like they destroyed Libya and Iraq. They want to create chaos there, push migrants into Europe. I got into this last week. I won't get into it today. I'm not contradicting myself when I say that it's very important that Jeremy Corbyn does win the Labour leadership contest, the result of which is announced tomorrow. He will win. It's a shoo-in. It's a landslide. Even the most evil bit of skullduggery now probably can't affect what's going to happen tomorrow. Why do I say contradict myself? Because I've said previously that I don't believe in the electoral system. Don't believe in it. I don't believe in democracy. And I don't believe Jeremy Corbyn will be elected Prime Minister ever, under any circumstances. They would stop that. And even if he was, he couldn't make a difference anyway. But Jeremy Corbyn doesn't believe in bombing countries. He does not believe in committing British troops overseas. And he believes that Tony Blair should face a war crimes tribunal. He also believes that we should stop punishing the poorest people in society and enforcing draconian austerity measures on the poor and the disabled. Take a look at this clip of Jeremy from 2012, which kind of sums him up.
So, in Libya, what do you think about the potential foreign intervention in Syria?
I think it's got to be very high, because the intervention by the West in Libya was predicated on the idea that they were intervening in order to protect and defend human rights in Libya. I was not a great supporter or admirer of the Gaddafi regime. That is not the point. The point is it's a sovereign country. The point is it had a functioning government there, and there were issues of human rights to be addressed, and they should be addressed, and I hope they would be. There's also issues of human rights to be addressed in many other countries, including Saudi Arabia. The difference is we buy oil from Saudi Arabia and we sell a large amount of arms to Saudi Arabia. They never liked Gaddafi, they never liked the Gaddafi regime, and they used the language of the problems in Benghazi as a pretext for the invasion. And what's now happened? A lot of chaos and a lot of killing of African people who were living in sub-Saharan African people, who were living in Libya, working in Libya, absolutely normally and legally, and they're now being treated as though they're the enemies of just about everybody, and many have died as a result of it. So I think I was against the intervention in Libya, and I would be against the intervention elsewhere, but I do think there is a real danger that using the pretext of Libya for NATO to get a foothold within the region, special forces to get a foothold in the region, and Western oil companies to get control of what was state-owned oil in Iraq, in Libya and other places is what's really behind it.
And that's why I supported, not that anybody took any lead from me or I doubt I influenced anybody, it's why I supported him to win the Labour leadership, which he will tomorrow. By 10:30am BST tomorrow, he will be announced as the next leader of the Labour Party, because he will be putting some of those points he just made there to David Cameron across the dispatch box every Wednesday at the Houses of Parliament here in Britain, in London. That is it for the Richie Allen television show this week. Thank you very much for watching it. Please share it on social media. Lots of exciting things happening at Beyond Vision Media, which we'll tell you about in the weeks and months to come. Big thanks to Hayden and Marty for the help with the programme. Thanks to davidicke.com for their support of it as well. Check out liveleak.com as well, of course. And that's it, really. I've got little else to tell you other than will have a podcast on the Richie Allen Radio Show on Sunday, and I will return to live radio next Monday at 8pm BST. Have a fabulous weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.